I think actually this is, again, that kind of gut feeling mixed in with science, mixed in with, knowledge and wisdom, is everything to do with knowing when you have enough information to make a good decision. The idea that you're going to be given all of the information all the time before you would make a decision is not real life.
Ladies and gentlemen, farmers, ranchers, and distinguished guests, thank you for listening to the Farm4Profit podcast, where we discuss the latest ideas, methods, trends, and techniques available to help your farm achieve higher levels of farm profitability. The Farm4Profit podcast is co-hosted by Tanner Winterhoff, the Iowa Bankerman, and David Whitaker, the Iowa Land Guy, where in tandem they will share their ideas and advice from industry experts. Thank you again for listening to the Farm4Profit podcast. Remember, if you aren't farming for profit, you won't be farming for long. And now, here's Tanner and David.
And listeners, welcome back to the Farm4Profit podcast. This is Tanner Winterhoff.
This is Corey Hillebo.
And we are here on a Farm4Profit episode. You know just as well as everybody else that Farm for Fun comes out on Thursday, or it'll be the next episode in your queue. Farm4Profit, we're here talking about a specific topic where the fun shows is kind of like sitting at the bar. It's the happy hour spinoff.
Or the coffee shop.
Or the coffee shop. Either way, we're getting to know somebody in agriculture, and you're going to learn ways potentially that your farm could be more profitable from them. Today, we're going to pick out something specific. But before we get into all of that, we always like you guys to leave your reviews. Spotify, Apple, we appreciate the 5 stars, nothing less.
You don't like them on iHeartRadio or Pandora? Or
you can't leave a review there.
Oh.
You can actually type a review on those other 2 platforms.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
something every day.
We can get those. But you can rate us on all places that you find this. Please share it with your family and friends. But today, our listener review is brought to you by Sukup Manufacturing, turning out to be a really great partner, a leader in the industry, and I think they chose one of the leading podcasts.
That was, yeah. It's a perfect partnership. Why wouldn't the leading place that could build your grain bin or still building partner with the leading podcasts?
Yeah, leader in grain handling and storage equipment. That is... It's really cool, the innovation that they put into something that just holds grain.
Yeah.
It doesn't just hold grain.
Well, and moves grain and dries grain and handles it.
Keeps it conditioned.
Yeah.
Making sure you have the best product.
Unloads it, loads it. Yeah.
They kind of do a lot.
Yeah.
Just like you as our listeners do a lot for us. So who is our listener review from today?
It is another one from TikTok, and it's the 7th Gen Farmer. 7? Do you think they're really 7? I don't know if I've ever known a 7 generation. That's a lot.
So, I mean, if you're talking 20 years between generations.
That'd have to be on the East Coast.
Be a 140-year-old farm?
It'd have to be on the East Coast or probably east of here, I would imagine.
Wow.
But says, listening to a podcast of yours, RN, which I think means right now.
Like right now? Right now.
Well,
that's impressive.
So, thank you.
Well, listeners, if you have the desire to send us a message or a review or why you listen to Farm4Profit, send that to 515-207-9640. But we're back working with our partner, Jace Young, over at Legacy Farmer, and it's time for one of his legacy tips of the day. Let's rock right into one of these.
Jace Young here from Legacy Farmer, bringing you another legacy principle for today titled, Your Problems Won't Solve Themselves. Most people in this world hope for a better future, and then there are the few that actually create a better future. Hoping for a better future is easy. You know why? Because it involves zero action. Creating a better future is hard, because it involves learning new things, solving problems, admitting your mistakes, and truly taking ownership for your results. Being a creator in this industry requires leadership, and leadership isn't always fun. The reason I'm speaking this message to you right now is because I can guarantee there is some problem in your life that you are avoiding at all costs and hoping that it solves itself. Let me pull you back down to reality. The only problems that get solved are the problems that we acknowledge and take ownership over. I'm going to say that again. You have to take ownership of the problem and be willing to do whatever is required to fix it. We face it with our members coming into Legacy Farmer all of the time. They come in with family problems, financial problems, team problems, tax problems, and the list goes on and on. But the difference with our members is that once they join Legacy Farmer, they are making a commitment to being a leader in their life and doing what it takes to solve these problems. Because deep down, if they don't, the consequences for their family are just too great. So do yourself a favor, level up and start taking ownership of every problem in your life and then get to work in solving it. It's really that simple. I'll leave you with this final question. What is the cost to your family and your future if you do not do what is required to solve your problems?
Oh, I feel called out. I'm like over here hiding. Like, why does he just follow me around and like figure out all of my issues?
I know I just identified a couple. I'm glad that he used the comment, got to bring you back to earth, because my mind had already started racing.
I was drifting away.
It's like, I do need to do that problem. I need to fix that. Yeah, I do need to take control. And you know what? I bet I would feel better if I just knocked out a couple of small ones. And that would give me the energy, be the smelling salts to get me to take on a big one.
Yep.
Now, thanks again, Jace. If you guys want to learn more or work with Jace, go to legacyfarmer.org. We really appreciate him providing you, as our listeners, some leg up information there. So today, we're going back to Farm Progress Show and actually having a conversation today with one of the employees from our sponsor of the listener review, and that is Matt Koch from Sukup Manufacturing. We're going to talk to you a little bit about marketing and branding, because so many of you have your own personal brand, your own farm brand to worry about.
In his new role.
Exactly. Yep. So let's jump right into that conversation. Here we go.
Corey, did you play basketball in high school?
I did.
Did you play college basketball?
No.
No, you didn't?
I was D1 at beer pong.
But you went to Iowa State, right?
I did.
All right.
What year were you there?
I graduated in 2009, half a year early.
I always like this when our guests speak before the introduction, because now it's like a question, a little bit of a quiz.
We're turning this around on you.
Who do you think that is, that deep voice? I'll tell you. The wait is over. It's Matt Koch. He brings 16 years of dedicated experience at Sukup Manufacturing. In 2022, that's this year, Matt joined the executive team at Sukup Manufacturing as their chief marketing officer. That's CMO, Corey, if you don't know acronyms. Matt's third-generation family member who's passionate about the Sukup brand and will strive to align measurable goals with data-driven decisions. So can you see that we packed in that introduction everything Farm4Profit related?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Good.
Welcome to the podcast, Matt.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
When we spoke to you in Louisville, I think the last time at the National Farm Machinery Show, you had a different role.
I did. I was director of IT and product integration at that point.
And now what is it?
And now I am 60 days into my new role as chief marketing officer. So don't let it ever be said that somebody can't go from tech to marketing.
I was just going to say, IT to marketing is not a standard jump.
Nope. Though I did meet somebody recently that had done the same thing, and so I was pretty excited that there was precedent established.
That's like an exclusive club. It's got to be a very short list of people. So what do you do?
I just don't think that a lot of people applied for the job. So.
What do you do as the chief marketing officer?
So basically, it's to be in charge of how brand performs in market. And for me, for years, being a family member, and don't get me wrong, every family member has an opinion about how the brand is performing in market. But to be able to look at it from like not just today's ad or that banner over there, but how the product portfolio fits with the customer focus that we're making, the message that we're sending to market, and to make sure that everything that we're doing kind of reinforces that brand strategy.
Do you have any brands that you look up to that you think are doing a really good job?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them, regardless of, how I feel about them as companies. It's undeniable that, John Deere has a very strong brand, Harley Davidson, Amazon, Apple. All of those companies have nearly achieved, what I think everybody's marketing dream is to be used as a genericized noun. Mm-hmm. Just to be able to be synonymous, your Kleenex, things like that.
I feel like all the big brands are like one word, one mark. So that's where we're failing, Tanner. Farm4Profit, it's too much.
That's why we squished it all together.
I was going to say, there's no spaces in there.
There's no spaces, but there's a number.
Got a number.
So what has your first, would you say 60 days?
You bet.
What has that looked like? Have you made any major changes?
It's kind of been a lot. I'm looking at some of the members of my team, and they've made it very easy on me for what we've kind of tried to do over the first 60 days of this. And I'm looking at our new banner ads in the back there. I'm looking at the different pieces that we've put together in a really short amount of time to really make sure that we're capturing what we're trying to deliver.
So I want to go back to the portion of the introduction where I mentioned data-driven results, data-driven decision making, because that's what we preach here on Farm for Profit. And the goal of this conversation with Matt today, I think, for our listeners is we all have a brand, whether we are farming or we're on social media or we run a company. There's a brand related with a reputation.
You bet.
Is that synonymous? Is branding and reputational risk all in one?
Oh, absolutely. I think more than anything, the past 20 years when we're talking about branding and marketing in general, you were selling product. And in some level we still are, and a lot of companies still are. I think more now than anything else, and all of the successful businesses, as far as marketing goes, are selling values and beliefs. That we're selling an image, a reputation, a lifestyle. And we want to make sure that we're accurately portraying that in everything that we do.
I'd say that's accurate.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's important to the listeners to get the data behind it. So when you guys are looking at data, how do you analyze and what are you analyzing?
No, and that's really what it is. One of the things you probably know about us is we've spent a significant amount of resources, time, money, and energy on print media. And while that has always had its historic place in market, I believe that the landscape there is changing as far as what that looks like. And other than circulation, it's really difficult for you to be able to put a significant ROI or an accurate ROI on what you're doing in strictly print. And so for me, I'm an engineer by trade, and so everything that I've always done my entire life is based on feedback data. Which is kind of fun, where the creative side of engineering and marketing and all those things comes from is now you're kind of forward looking, you're projecting based on what you're getting back. And for me, I want to know that the again, time, money, and resources that we're spending on things has a significant impact and return and is doing what we want it to do as a function of our overall goals.
How does one measure that when you're talking about a lifestyle or, like this new style of branding? Like when you think of John Deere, when you think of Sukup and their values are this, some of that might not come to fruition for years down the road.
It's a long game.
Right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so and that's that's what I've already talked to my team about, is this is not going to happen tomorrow. But what are the steps that we're going to need to take to be able to get from where we are now to where we want to be in a decade? I mean, we're talking a long time to be able to develop that type of relationship and brand and market, period.
I think of one of the probably longest standing ones in my lifestyle that I sell seed on the side is Pioneer brand. I got people that buy that brand of seed because their great grandpa did or their grandpa did, and they won't even look elsewhere.
It's a legacy.
That's like it's a legacy brand. It's crazy.
Exactly right. No, and what we want to do is elicit that strong, emotional, positive connection with brand. Like, again, that should be the goal of everything that we're doing.
So I would say in the 3-year history of our podcast that there has been more of a focus in the last 12 months in the conversations that we've had with the partners that we work with on generating an ROI off of marketing dollars spent. But for our listeners who are looking at marketing their own farm or their social media or their personal brand, it's interesting here when you look at the blurb from the website for Sukup Manufacturing. Largest family-owned and operated manufacturer of grain storage, drying, and handling equipment and steel structures. Very focused.
Yeah.
It's not a question as to what you guys do and who you are. So what advice do you have someone as an individual that is trying to identify who they are?
So I was thinking about this, and you actually kind of took the words right out of my mouth on this one. It is incredibly important to be hyper-focused on what that mission statement is. And the example that I was going to bring today regarding this is what you don't want to do is just be over-generic about it and try to be able to reach everybody and everything in your single mission statement. You tell me what this sounds like to you. In a mission statement, we provide our products and services with a dedication to the highest degree of integrity and quality of customer satisfaction, developing long-term professional relationships with employees that develop pride, creating a stable working environment and company spirit.
Well, I'm glad he didn't pull our mission statement off our website.
That sounds like a lot.
But I'm trying to sit here. I can't even pick what industry they're in.
No, that's exactly what. Do you know who that is? That's Dunder Mifflin from The Office. And that's,
It actually sounded familiar, and I was like, okay, I could either bust this out if I could remember who
Yep.
said that. I didn't have it.
Nope.
But that's a good point to our listeners. If you are in regenerative ag, we've had a couple conversations already about that, then it needs to be focused on that side of it. If you are in direct to consumer, whether it's a livestock or a meat product or your vegetables or heck, I've even talked to somebody that grows flowers.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to get that message across without being very clear in your mission.
Right. If they don't know who you are, they're not going to care. In the same way that, why do people listen to this podcast? They're listening for very, very specific advice on how to be able to do things better, period.
So do you think your capacities at Sukup, the different roles that you've held, because you weren't only in IT, before that you were also doing other things. How much do you think doing a lot of different roles has prepped you for this current position?
So, I started as an engineer with us, but I also did a lot of production work as well. So teaching our staff to be able to make electrical panels, how to be able to lay them out, making relationships with those people for how they're going to use it and test it. And, I'd kind of gone from there to writing production management software so that we're leveraging technology to be able to make things better and, again, improve the experience all the way through. I've kind of dabbled in being a family member. I was allowed a little bit of latitude to be able to kind of dip my toe into different areas of the business, including sales and advertising in the past. And I think it speaks a lot that, like at Sukup Manufacturing, that we have people that know where the raw material comes from, who receives it by name, who will consume that material within the plant, how it's routed in shipping, how it goes to customer, who the customers are, and then when it hits job site. There's not a lot of our competitors that can say things like that, and that's one of the things that has really helped me get a good foundation for what I would like to do with this.
Transparency.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Transparency
sure.
within the company,
Yeah.
but also transparency within the farm.
Yeah. The first couple of years working as an electrical engineer, automation engineer, was I would go on site with our customers, with our end producers, and we would learn how to be able to work the dryer, for instance, and figure out how to be able to look at it from their perspective, how they would like to use it. And that's, of course, how I learned, farming operations and how that works when it comes in sight. So, I'm not saying something that sounds stupid to them
Right.
when we're searching for solutions.
Yeah. We've talked a little bit about what you think a brand is, but where do you think it's heading? It's kind of a new era with social media and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's dynamic. The more and more touch points that we provide, that customers allow themselves to be touched by, they're going to be leveraged. Obviously, social media plays an enormous aspect in that. All the marketing efforts are revolved around, again, how can we create that positive connection with market, with customer, and we're going to use what's available to us to be able to get there.
Podcast.
Yeah, you bet. Right now.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. And that's another thing that I find interesting is the evolution. And that's another reason this message is being recorded for our listeners to try and add value to what they can do to build the brand on their farm, whether it's using social media or it's using another tool that's going to come available that we don't know about. Corey, I'm excited. We've got some tips that I gathered from some listeners and from prior guests that we've had. But before that, what I hear commonly when people come up to us is they go, how do you guys have time to do a podcast? They know we've all got jobs. They know that with the podcast comes preparation, setting things up. But what I want to know from Matt is, you don't just do one thing. You're managing the marketing for the entire company. So how do you tackle the tasks every day so that you don't always run out of time?
Yeah, this has everything to do with time management and training, and trust. I didn't try to put 3 T's together, but
I like that though. The triple
that's
threat.
normally what I would
go.
do. So when we're talking about an initiative of marketing for a business, there are 100 things that go in those buckets. The first thing that we need to do in all these type of things, or at least this is the way my brain works, is that we need to kind of inventory everything that we're doing, organize it, put it together, and then make sure that people are actually equipped to be able to handle those segments of the individual pieces of work that have to be done. This has been really nice for me in the fact that we've got capable staff, and the people that I work with are highly talented, and they're hungry. They want to work. They want to be able to do good things. They just want to know what the vision is, and so being able to lay that out, provide some rules and some boundaries so that we can say, for instance, say I'm not there and somebody's saying, well, I need to decide between this and this. We always go back and like Jamie and I will talk about this, and I'll say, how does that fit in this puzzle? And then the choice between those two things generally becomes a lot clearer.
Yep.
That's fair.
I'm hearing SOPs, probably some standard operating procedures, a good team behind you.
Clarity of the mission statement.
Yep.
Exactly.
It's got to align with the direction that you want to go.
That's exactly right.
Whether it's for your farm or for your personal brand.
Yep. Nope, you're exactly right.
But then also having the freedom to adapt, because I'm sure with social media and all that, it is ever changing.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to the input that we've gotten from our listeners. We got a couple people that shared here before the day also started. So when we're thinking about the farm side, so we're stepping out to how can we make our farm more profitable, or what type of a mission statement can we put together? And one of the pieces of advice was build some distance between you and your farm business to gain perspective.
There's absolutely something to be said for, when you're really emotionally involved in something, that you tend to make short scope decisions, things that take care of the immediate problem right now, but you might actually be making a long-term sacrifice. And so as far as putting some distance between you and the business, that's the difference between reaction and management.
Mm-hmm. I like that. The difference between reaction and management.
Are you worried about any items that are out of your control that might affect you?
Sure, nobody can control all the variables. I talked to my kids about this sometime, and I said, listen, the only person's behavior that you can control is your own. Mm-hmm. And we want to be able to build up some stop gaps, some air gaps between certain sections. But as far as if tomorrow commodity prices drop through the floor and farming income all of a sudden went way down, that's a serious problem. There's nothing that we're going to really be able to do to be able to combat that type of a thing. And so I think it's really important to have the perspective of saying, what can we do and what should we do based on that? The concept that we can figure out how to stabilize, like steel, for instance, this year was a wild deal with the price of steel tripling.
Yep.
It's just one of those things that's very difficult for us to control.
Still got to deliver the value, even though the price has gone up. So one of the other ones that I struggle with that we heard is act before you are 100% sure. And Corey knows that that's not my personality type.
No.
We've even missed opportunities because I didn't act because I wasn't sure. How do you do that? How do you go do something before you're sure it's right?
So that's kind of an interesting question. I'm definitely not. I probably, to begin with, was definitely more, if I've got 51% of the information, let's go make that decision. I was very eager to be able to go and do it. I think time and failures later kind of teach you to be a little bit more conservative with it. But I think actually this is, again, that kind of gut feeling mixed in with science, mixed in with knowledge and wisdom, is everything to do with knowing when you have enough information to make a good decision. The idea that you're going to be given all of the information all the time before you would make a decision is not real life. There's a sentiment of paralysis by analysis.
Yeah.
The idea that so much information comes in, it's completely overwhelming, and you don't know how to do anything with it.
I think it's a calculated risk.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
And it probably depends upon the size of the decision.
That's absolutely true. This is a risk-reward situation. This is everything should be a weighted calculation. Period.
I wanted to jump back one just to make a comment, not a question, but I think we talked about, if the markets go down, we can't control that. But I think that's where the branding and building a brand, like you said,
Clear goals or clear
legacy
vision.
and all that, like you're branding whether the market's down or not, because even if they're not buying right now, they're going to be at some point.
No, that's exactly right. When we're in a situation right now where, people want stuff and people can't get it.
Yeah.
There's just no way to be able to produce for the demand. That's not always going to be the case.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden we're back in a competitive environment, guess what's there? It's marketing, it's brand, it's the things that you've built on for years that will help buoy and smooth out those curves, those hills and valleys.
I like that a lot. I'm trying to think of a really good way to wrap this up. And I think one of these other suggestions from our listeners is you can't always assume you know what other people need. And that's probably more ever changing. I'm reflecting right now before Matt answers on the podcast is that's why the feedback that we get from our listeners is so good for changing the direction of where we're going. If you think about, Corey, over the last 3 years of the Farm for Profit podcast, we don't look at all today like we did the 4th of July in 2019.
Yeah, they've molded it to where it should be.
So when you assume you know what everybody else needs or wants, how do you go about actually getting the data, the information to know what direction you should take your company, your product, your personal brand?
This kind of goes back to the assumption that, if you always think you're the smartest person in the room, you're going to ultimately end up making a really big mistake. One of the things that I learned to do from a very early age, at least as a professional, was to be able to just be humble and say, what do you want out of this? Instead of just saying, I think this is sufficient, or this is an efficient way for me to be able to give you what I think you want, as opposed to just saying, how would you like this to feel? How would you like this to perform? And then actually doing the work of getting that experience and that function to be good for customer. We did that a lot when we were making our first UI UX design for touch panels, to be able to say, how do customers want that to be delivered? We took that feedback and we delivered it and packaged it up, and that part of it has been extremely successful.
Absolutely. Corey, what do you think? Is it time for the payoff question?
I think so. So I'll ask it, and you got your summary ready. What's the best advice that you've ever been given, and why you think of that? Tanner will summarize.
So we're here with Matt Koch from Koch Manufacturing. Koch Manufacturing is the world's largest family-owned and operated manufacturer of grain storage, drying, and handling equipment and steel structures. So they are located here in the Heartland, Sheffield, Iowa. So not too far away from Farm Progress Show grounds here in 2022. We talked about marketing and branding along the lines of self-promotion and stuff that we can do for our own farm brand. Pay attention to how brands are performing in the market. Look at those legacy brands and see if there's something that you can pick from them. But ultimately, pay attention to the ROI. That's the Farm for Profit podcast portion of this, is if your time is not valuable to you, it's not going to be valuable to other people. Think about investing your time in the channels that you choose to use, whether it be social media or YouTube or print, to make sure you're getting the best return on your investment. Make sure you find what is important to you and put that into a mission statement, and then figure out if those puzzle pieces, when you go to make decisions, are going to help you complete that puzzle. We know that this is a process. Transparency is usually key when creating and defending a brand. Work on the teamwork perspective. It might be you, it might be other companies, might be other brands that you can align with. Look at building some distance between you and your farm or your business to get some perspective. Thinking about what you can control, the image that you can provide, and let the rest come to you. If you're novice, not even novice, if you're conservative like I am, and it feels uncomfortable to act before you are 100% sure, you're probably going to miss the boat. So develop a good gut feeling, get a lot of the data there to help make those decisions, and be adaptable. So that is the summary I have for today.
So with that, what is the best advice you've ever been given?
So years ago, I was probably 8 years ago. I had a customer call me up and tell me just how great something we were doing at Sukup was, and it was something that I was directly involved with. And our team has always been small, but the guy was like, "Listen, what you did here was amazing, but just think about how great it would be if other people were equipped to be able to do the same thing." And he kind of came at it from me to me as just saying, like, Matt, again, he flattered me, but then he challenged me. You know, he said, "You're a natural born leader. You're smart. You're all of these great things. But look what this would be, and you've done this yourself. Look at what this would look like is if you had an entire team doing the same thing." And so that's kind of of course, the age-old thing. It's you want to go fast, you go by yourself. You want to go far, you go together. And so really equipping other people to be able to help, to be able to execute those visions. That's been something that I've definitely found a lot of value in.
That's really another new one.
That's really good.
If you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, bring others with you.
That's great.
That was really good. You got a challenge, Corey?
I'm always open-minded. That's what I always say. But if you're building your brand, start thinking about the legacy portion. It's not just about selling this product or that. It's about what you believe in, and think of those brands that you use daily or that you know daily, and maybe not mimic, but just take into consideration what they're doing.
Absolutely. Matt, we appreciate you jumping on. We appreciate you having us at Farm Progress Show 2022. This is a beautiful setup. We really, I don't know where else you could be and have something this awesome.
Yeah, this is great. Best setup we've been in.
Thanks again.
Cool, guys. Thank you.
Yep.
Remember, if you aren't farming for profit, you won't be farming for long.